All right, so get this. We're going deep today on some crazy tech news that could actually hit a lot closer to home than you'd think.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about this Chinese AI company, DeepSeek, and how they've really shaken things up. Even like the big giants, the Nvidias of the world, are kind of reeling from it.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating to see just how quickly things can change. One minute, Nvidia's like the king of the hill when it comes to these AI chips, and the next, bam, their stock's taking a nosedive like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, and I mean, Forbes, CNN, Axios, everyone's covering this.
Rightfully so.
And for good reason, right? We're talking about a loss of almost $600 billion in market value for Nvidia in just one single day. Like, just to wrap your head around it,
It's an insane amount of money.
it's more than most companies on the planet are even worth.
In fact, it's the single biggest drop in a single day in stock market history. Like a figure so big, it's hard to even really fathom.
Yeah.
And it all really stems from this new AI model that DeepSeek developed. It's called R1.
So tell me what's so special about this R1? Why is it causing such a commotion?
Well, on the surface, it's kind of similar to ChatGPT, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. It was developed by a US company, OpenAI. And they both can do all sorts of cool things, like, generate text that sounds like a human wrote it, translate languages, write different kinds of creative content, answer your questions in a pretty informative way. But here's the thing that really makes DeepSeek stand out. They're saying they built R1 for just $5.6 million.
Wait, well, 5.6 million. That's pennies compared to what U.S. companies have been spending, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for comparison, Meta has dumped tens of billions of dollars into their own AI projects, and there are
Yeah.
reports that Google has actually spent even more than that.
Oh.
So it really makes you wonder, has DeepSeek found like a secret shortcut or something? Have they cracked the code to developing AI for way cheaper than anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so DeepSeek builds this impressive and cheap AI model, but how does that translate into NVIDIA, losing more money than some entire country's economies?
Well, here's the thing. Nvidia basically has a monopoly on these specialized chips, the ones that power all these fancy AI models.
Okay.
And those chips, they're not easy to make. They're super complex, and they use a ton of energy to produce, which of course means they can charge a pretty penny for them. So when DeepSeek comes along and pulls this off, it basically sends a huge warning signal to anyone who's invested in Nvidia. Because if a company can build cutting-edge AI for dirt cheap, what does that mean for the future demand for Nvidia's pricey chips?
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the investors are starting to panic a little bit,
Yeah.
thinking that NVIDIA's reign might be coming to an end. But, okay, let's say that's true. How does all this, corporate drama actually affect the average person? Someone who's not checking the stock market every day.
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, right? And that's what makes this whole deep dive so important. Because on the surface, yeah, it might just seem like another Wall Street story about winners and losers. But the reality is, this shift in the AI landscape, it could have huge ripple effects for all of us in ways we probably can't even imagine yet.
So like what? Give me an example.
Well, just think about it. If developing AI suddenly becomes way cheaper, it could totally revolutionize tons of industries. Healthcare, education, transportation, entertainment. Pretty much every aspect of our lives could be impacted.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to get the bigger picture here. But I got to be honest, I'm also a little scared. Technology is powerful stuff, and it doesn't always lead to good things.
Sure.
Are there any, potential downsides to this whole AI shift that we should be worried about?
Oh, for sure. And I think it's crucial that we think about the possible consequences as much as we get excited about the benefits. And one of the biggest concerns, honestly, is what it could mean for jobs.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Because as AI gets smarter and cheaper, it could start automating a lot of tasks that are currently done by, well, us. Yeah. By human.
Yeah, you're right. I've already seen that starting to happen in some places. Like, you go to the grocery store, and there are more self-checkout kiosks than actual cashiers.
Exactly.
So if AI gets even cheaper, are we going to see that kind of automation just explode everywhere?
It's definitely a possibility, yeah. And it's something that policymakers and industry leaders need to be thinking about right now. Like, how do we prepare for this? What kinds of retraining programs do we need for workers who might lose their jobs to AI? Can we come up with new economic models that can adapt to this crazy, fast-changing world?
Because it's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we as a society figure out how to deal with it, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got job displacement. We've got the need to make sure everyone can actually access and benefit from AI. And then there's this whole complicated relationship between AI and energy consumption that we talked about. But what about the tech itself? If DeepSeek's R1 is really as good and as cheap as they say it is, does that mean the U.S. is, like, falling behind in the AI race?
Well, it's definitely a wake-up call, I'd say, for the U.S. tech industry. For a long time, people just assumed that U.S. companies were way ahead of everyone else when it came to AI. But DeepSeek's accomplishment, it kind of throws that assumption out the window. It shows that innovation can come from anywhere, and that if you get too comfortable, someone else might just zoom past you.
So what can U.S. companies do to keep up? How do they
Yeah.
stay competitive in this, like, constantly changing landscape?
Well, they got to be willing to adapt,
Yeah.
to innovate, to challenge their own ideas about how things should be done. Because what DeepSeek's done suggests that maybe there are more efficient and cost-effective ways to develop AI, ways that U.S. companies haven't even thought of yet.
It sounds like this DeepSeek breakthrough has really turned everything upside down, and everyone's having to rethink what the future of AI looks like.
Right.
But what about the everyday implications? You mentioned earlier that
Yeah.
AI could impact, like, every part of our lives.
Right.
Can you give me some concrete examples of how that might actually play out?
Sure. Imagine a world where those AI-powered personal assistants, the ones that are like super helpful but really expensive right now. Imagine if those were suddenly affordable for everyone,
Yeah.
not just a luxury for the rich. And these assistants could help you with everything: your schedule, your money, your health, even your social life.
That sounds amazing. Like having a personal
Mhm.
secretary who's available 24/7.
Exactly. And then think about healthcare. AI could help create personalized treatment plans, diagnose diseases way earlier and more accurately, and even help develop new drugs and therapies.
Wow, that could be a total game changer, especially as, our population gets older and the demand for healthcare just keeps going up.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about education. Imagine these personalized learning platforms, ones that adapt to each student's individual needs and how they learn best. Students could learn at their own pace, focus on what they're actually interested in, and get instant feedback from AI tutors.
That would be incredible. It can make education so much more engaging and effective and more accessible to students from all different backgrounds.
Yeah, I think so. And these are just a few examples. The possibilities are really endless, but it's important to keep in mind that at the end of the day, AI is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's exciting to think about all the potential benefits, but we can't just ignore the risks. We need to make sure that AI is developed and used ethically, responsibly, and in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on for today. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been fascinating, and I have to admit, a little bit scary at times, but definitely thought-provoking. And I hope it's made you think a little deeper about the role AI is going to play in all our lives.
Yeah, the conversation definitely doesn't end here. I encourage everyone to stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged. The future is waiting to be written, and we all have a part in shaping what it looks like.
Well said. Until next time.
See ya. Bye. Bye. So, it's not just about jobs either. There's this whole question of accessibility, right?
Right.
If AI development becomes cheaper and easier, will everybody actually benefit from that? Or will it just be, the same handful of powerful companies and people who get to reap the rewards?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Will it lead to a more equitable future, or will it just make the existing inequalities even worse?
I see what you mean. Just because AI is cheaper to develop doesn't automatically mean that everyone's going to have the resources or the know-how
Yeah.
to actually use it to its full potential.
Right. Exactly. So we really need to be thinking about initiatives that can democratize access to AI education and resources. Make sure that everyone, regardless of their background or their income, has a chance to participate in this whole technological revolution. Otherwise, we risk creating a future where the benefits of AI are only enjoyed by a privileged few and everyone else gets left behind.
It sounds like there's a lot of really complex questions that we need to grapple with as we move into this new era of AI.
Yeah.
But hey, let's shift gears for a second and talk about energy. You mentioned earlier that cheaper AI development could actually lead to lower energy prices. How did that work?
Yeah, so those massive data centers that power all this AI stuff, they're incredibly energy intensive. They gobble up huge amounts of electricity, which obviously contributes to greenhouse gas emissions and drives up energy costs for everyone.
Okay.
But if DeepSeek's model is really as efficient as they claim, it could significantly reduce the demand for these giant data centers,
Oh, I see.
leading to less energy consumption overall and potentially lower prices for consumers.
So there's a possible environmental benefit too then. But you also mentioned a counterargument to that, something about how wider adoption of AI could actually lead to increased energy demands in the long run.
Right, it's a bit of a paradox. While more efficient AI models could initially reduce energy consumption, if this leads to everyone and their dog using AI, which is entirely possible, the overall energy demand could eventually surpass current levels.
Wow.
Think about it. Imagine a world where every device, every system, every process is powered by AI.
Yeah.
The energy demands would be absolutely staggering.
So it's a double-edged sword then. We might see some initial wins in energy efficiency.
Hmm.
But if AI becomes as ubiquitous as, say, the internet is today, the long-term impact on energy consumption is anyone's guess.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. There are just too many variables at play, but it definitely highlights the importance of investing in renewable energy sources
Yeah.
and developing AI technologies that are even more energy efficient. We can't just sit back and assume that cheaper AI will magically solve all our energy problems. We need to be proactive in finding sustainable solutions.
Okay, so we've talked about potential job losses, the need for equitable access, the complex relationship between AI and energy. But let's zoom back in on the technology itself for a minute. If DeepSeek's R1 is really that good and that cheap, does that mean that the US is falling behind in this whole AI race?
Well, it's definitely a wake-up call for the U.S. tech industry, that's for sure. For a long time, we were kind of the undisputed leaders in AI development, but DeepSeek coming out of nowhere like this, it challenges that assumption. It's a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere and that getting complacent can be really dangerous, especially in the tech world.
So what can US companies do to stay competitive? How do they keep up in this crazy, fast-paced environment?
I think they need to be willing to adapt first and foremost. They need to innovate, to experiment, to question their own assumptions about how AI should be developed. Maybe there are more efficient and cost-effective ways to do things, ways that they haven't even considered yet.
Interesting. It sounds like DeepSeek has really shaken things up, and it's forcing everyone to rethink what the future of AI looks like. But let's bring it back down to earth for a minute.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that AI could potentially impact every aspect of our lives. Can you give me some specific examples of how that might play out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So imagine a world where those AI-powered personal assistants, the ones that can do all sorts of cool stuff but are super expensive right now.
Right.
Imagine if those were suddenly affordable for everyone, not just a luxury for the rich. These assistants could help you with everything, managing your schedule, your finances, your health, even your social life.
That's kind of mind-blowing, actually.
Right. It'd be like having a super efficient personal secretary at your beck and call 24/7.
Exactly. And then think about healthcare. AI could personalize treatment plans for every patient, diagnose diseases much earlier and more accurately, and even help develop new drugs and therapies.
That would be a game changer, especially with healthcare costs constantly rising. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's education. Imagine personalized learning platforms that adapt to each student's individual needs and how they learn best. Students could learn at their own pace, focus on what they're actually interested in, and get instant feedback from AI tutors.
That would be incredible. We could make education so much more engaging and effective, and more accessible to students from all different backgrounds.
Exactly. And those are just a few examples. I mean, the possibilities are really endless. But it's important to remember, AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right. It all comes back to how we choose to use it.
Exactly.
It's exciting to think about all the good that AI could do, but we have to be aware of the risks, too.
For sure.
We need to make sure that it's developed and used ethically, responsibly, and in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few. It's pretty mind-blowing, right? To think that one company's breakthrough could have such a massive ripple effect, not just in the tech world, but potentially in every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about these kinds of technological advancements. They rarely stay confined to just one industry. What starts as a shakeup in Silicon Valley can quickly turn into a global phenomenon, affecting everything from, like you said, our everyday lives to the job market to, well, who knows what else.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from Nvidia's stock plummeting to the potential benefits and risks of cheaper, more accessible AI. It's clear that we're at a turning point.
Oh, absolutely. This is a whole new era, and it's filled with both incredible promise and some pretty daunting challenges.
Yeah.
We talked about how AI could revolutionize healthcare, education, even our personal lives.
Right.
But we also can't just ignore the potential downsides like job displacement and the need to ensure that everyone benefits from these advancements, not just a select few.
It's easy to get caught up in all the hype surrounding AI. But at the end of the day, it's not some magic solution to all our problems. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Couldn't agree more. The technology itself is neutral. It's the human element that ultimately determines its impact.
So it's really up to us as a society to decide how we want to use it, right?
Exactly. We need to have some serious conversations about the ethical implications of AI. And we need to work together to create a future where these technologies are used responsibly and for the benefit of everyone.
This whole DeepSeek situation has really opened my eyes to the fact that the future of AI isn't some distant sci-fi concept. It's happening right now, and it's going to have a profound impact on all of our lives, whether we're ready for it or not.
Yeah, and the exciting thing is, we have the power to shape that future. We can choose to sit back and just watch it unfold, or we can actively engage in shaping the development and deployment of AI in a way that aligns with our values and our vision for a better world.
I like that. That's an empowering thought, and I think it's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been fascinating and definitely thought-provoking.
My pleasure. Always happy to chat about this stuff.
And I hope it's inspired you to think a little more deeply about the role AI is going to play in all our lives.
Yeah, the conversation definitely doesn't end here, so stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged. The future is waiting to be written, and we all have a part in shaping what it looks like.
Well said. Until next time.
Take care.